Hi everybody! So in this video I'm going to be talking briefly about the two literary journals that I went ahead and researched for this project. Let's go ahead and start with the first one, which is called Gulf Coast. It's available in both print and online. They have a website, but they only have online exclusives basically on their website. If you want to read most of the actual pieces published in their editions, you have to actually have a print version. So for my research, I wasn't able to really get a lot on their latest edition, which actually came out in April. They publish every October and April. Instead, I went ahead and did most of my research and exploring in this issue, which is called the archive issue, from summer and fall of 2016. I found this to be very interesting overall. The vibe it reminds me of a scientist journal. All these different species we have on the front, because overall it is an edition that is basically like exploring all of the possible inspirations that can come out of history and like what is found in archives. The journal itself is actually based out of the English department of the University of Houston. It was started by Donald Barthelme and Philip Lopate. It's also a non-profit, and before it was the Gulf Coast, it was Domestic Crude in 1982, but then it became Gulf Coast in 1986, and they have over 3,000 readers right now, which is pretty great. One of the essays that stood out to me the most in this edition here was called Frog Game. It read like a short story. It was very fictional. It had like characters that definitely weren't the author, and it was just really interesting because it was nonfiction, but it was told like it was fiction, and it was like kind of a myth mixed with a fairy tale that shows how children are gullible because they believed this game that they played with their grandparents about berries being poisonous, and like they'd put one poisonous berry in a bowl full of normal berries, and it would be a game to see if anybody was going to get the poisonous berry, when in reality there was never actually a poisonous berry, and it was showing how children's perceptions of what they're told affects them. It was very, very interesting, and I just thought that was really cool. And that's just one piece that jumped out at me. There were a ton others, but that's just one. And overall, the vibe of this journal is just really cool. The genres kind of just blend together. There isn't a specific section for each genre, which is really cool. There also was some translated pieces. On this side here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's actually Chinese, and then this is the translated English, which I think is really cool. A lot of the authors had mixed cultural backgrounds, which contributed to a lot of very interesting pieces and viewpoints. So that's basically this journal, and I would encourage you to check out the online exclusives that they have. Yeah, and all of their submission guidelines are there as well, but basically it's just $2.50 for one submission. They only want you to submit one piece at a time. You don't want a whole lot of pieces from the same genre at a time. And it's basically through Submittable, so it's easy. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and move on to my second journal, which is exclusively online. It's called 5x5 Strong Clear Literature. And it's called 5x5 because it derives its name from the radio communication signals. Essentially 5x5 in comparison to a 1x5 means that the communication is crystal clear and that you can hear someone perfectly. So that's kind of translates to how they want their writing to be. They want their writing to be clearly communicating something and also not static like you would hear on a radio, which I think is really clever. They explain that on their about page. And so that brings me to the overall impression that I got of the journal, which was that it was very focused on flash fiction because they only want pieces that are 500 words or less. But what I was really struck with was that every single piece had a really meaningful aboutness, even though it had only been developed in like a page, which is really awesome. A few of them actually that stood out to me were, let me find it. I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember that it had to do with had to do with like this girl driving on a country road, and it was the first time she was driving in her father's car with her license, and she hit a bird, like a beautiful bird, and then had to just keep driving and leave it there to die. And she crafted all of that in literally in like a page, and came to the really meaningful conclusion that like she was very aware of how her life impacted other life, and it was really, really awesome to read. So that was basically my overall impression. I'll really, really quickly show you the website and what their website looks like. It's basically a blog format. This here is their newest edition, issue number 7. This journal also only has 3 editors, while the Gulf Coast is made up of a lot of different people. It's also student edited and run out of the University of Houston, but this journal only has 3 editors, a creative, a nonfiction, fiction, and poetry editor. And you can basically read this by literally virtually flipping through the pages, which I think is awesome. And I want to note that the only piece of art is the cover here, which I also find to be very simple. So their main focus is on the clarity and the communication of their written works. This journal also is sectioned by genre, so this is the whole poetry section, and then if you keep scrolling, we'll eventually get to fiction, and then after that, nonfiction. And as you can see here, each piece is literally a page or 2, but I thought that they were all amazing. And overall, I just thought this was really awesome. And they're a very small publication, so that's basically all there is to know about them. This is their 7th issue, so they've been around for a little while. This one was also published in February, so not that long ago. And yeah, I would encourage you to check both of these out more. I linked stuff to their submission information on the shared Google Docs. You can look more about that. But like I said, for 5x5, they're looking for pieces of 500 words or less. Some of the types of essays that they're looking for include like personal as well as short memoirs. They're also looking for journalistic kind of essays. But they're just really looking for a lot of different kinds of nonfiction, which is awesome. And yeah, I think that's all that I'm going to talk about in this video. Like I said, I encourage you to check them out some more and become more familiar with them and see if you want to submit to them. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you later.